And our team is addressing food and housing insecurity with students here at GRCC. So I'm excited about the work the team is doing, so thank you to the team members who are here. And today we have a panel discussion with currently enrolled students, and our facilitator is a recent GRCC grad. I'll give her the mic. She can introduce herself, and these guys are completely capable of carrying it here on out. Cool? Thanks for coming, everybody.
All right, so I have to apologize right now. I'm a little sick, so if I start coughing, I'm sorry. So my name's April. I'm a recent GRCC graduate. I attend Aquinas College now. I have done research with a partner about food and housing insecurities within community colleges across the United States. We've presented 2 papers, one in California and one in Boston. Our research primarily looked at cost of tuition raising, cost of books. We looked at years like 1975 compared to now. We did a survey at GRCC, I think it was about 2015, just based around housing and food insecurities. We talked to randomly selected community colleges all across the US to find out who had pantries, how they were helping students, what works, like what, how can colleges help their students, basically. It's a need that is not talked about a lot, but it needs to be. It's something that is very prominent, especially in community colleges, and I don't think a lot of people realize it. So it's great to be facilitating this panel. I'm really excited. So I do want to start out and have everybody just introduce themselves and tell a little bit about yourself, and we'll just go from there.
All right, hello everybody, my name's Chris Remley. I'm on the CAP team. I'm a current employee of GRCC. I work as the office manager in student life and conduct. I help run these food pantries, so hopefully I can give a little perspective about the food pantry here at GRCC. It is a student-run food pantry. We work with our student alliance, our student government on campus to run this food pantry. Funds for the food pantry do come from the Student Alliance budget, which is the student activities fee that helps fund the student activities, or the student government. And we also receive money from the foundation and from emergency funds through the dean's office as well to help run the food pantry. And so that's what I'm here for, is just to give a little insight on the food pantry and the usage of it.
Hi, my name is DeAndre Bridgman. I'm a student here at GRCC. I'm in the student leadership of Alpha, Beta, Omega, ABO, and also Trio as well.
My name is Morgan Brown. I am a current student here at GRCC, and I am the chapter president for Phi Theta Kappa here on campus.
Okay. Just kidding. Even if you're not suffering from any of these things, you could probably answer in the aspect of the other things you've heard, or from other people's perspectives. So I guess, what would you all like to tell us about hunger and homelessness?
I would like to say hunger and homelessness is a big problem here at Grand Rapids Community College. Being on the student leadership, you hear a lot of problems that students go through. And hunger and homelessness are probably top 5 of those problems that I hear. I hear students tell me they're homeless. I hear students that say, I don't have no money to eat, things of that nature. I feel that the food pantries on campus are very essential to students for the fact that that's one less thing they have to worry about.
I definitely see hunger and home insecurity on campus. I oftentimes, when I go to class, will see students who are sitting there, and you can physically tell that they are hungry and they're not focused in class. And even talking to friends I know that live at home, even, they support themselves through or for their education, which includes food costs on campus. And they are like, will say something where it's either I can pay for my school supplies or I can have a meal. And so they obviously are going to choose the school supplies because they're going for a degree. They need to pass their classes.
Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. We do have one more panelist that's joining us, so I'm going to kind of jump around until she gets here. Let's see. What other resources do you think students are using to survive?
Resources that I see here on campus that students use to survive are student organizations. For instance, ABO. ABO feeds its members, I would say, at least 3 times a week. I think students take full advantage of that. Or the things that's going on campus, things of such of this nature that has food at the events, showers here on campus, bathrooms, things of that nature.
Like you said, events on campus that happen, when you're planning them, you oftentimes will hear, have food, more people will show up, and it's kind of the stereotypic college student idea that if there's free food, you shouldn't pass it up. And that's very true for a lot of students. They go to events just for the food. I know quite a few people who use facilities here on campus, like showers, to be able to maintain personal hygiene because they don't have somewhere else that they can do it or know of anywhere else that they can do it. There are the food pantries around campus, but very few people know that they are there, and so they aren't reaching as many people as they should, but they are a great resource for those who know of them.
And from the food pantry perspective, we have been collecting a little bit more data starting this fall semester. And one question we ask is if they do receive any other food assistance, such as WIC or the SNAP program or food stamp program. And out of the 34 that have signed up, 9 did mention that they do receive some kind of other service outside of the food pantry. So just to give you some numbers there in terms of food.
Great. So has hunger or homelessness affected any of your personal lives? Or stories from other students, how it affects their personal lives would work too?
In the beginning of my college career, I stayed at many places, and it affected the classroom heavily. Withdrawn from classes, things of that nature. But like now it's more stable and have more structure. I thrive here on campus. And I think also if students are more involved here on campus, they'll thrive as well.
A student came up to me last school year and was talking to me about Phi Theta Kappa, and we got into the conversation about how we're really supportive of students and try and make sure that their well-being is taken care of, as well as their academic success. And this person just opened right up to me and they're like, I've been homeless for a couple weeks now. I have no idea what to do. I have no idea what resources are available. So immediately got in contact with who I knew was connected to those resources. That student I know got the help they needed, but it was amazing that because of one conversation that wasn't even related to the topic, turns out that this is happening to someone I know. So it's something that probably is affecting more people than we realize, because people don't want to talk about it because they don't want to look powerless, is what I would say.
I guess we can talk a little bit about that. I think that it's interesting that you said people feel powerless, and I think part of the reason it's so hard for people to come out and talk about this is because there's this feeling of defeat, maybe, which I don't believe people should feel that way, because everybody struggles in their own way, like whether it's, you know, whatever aspect it is. Do you think that if we work, you know, as a society to remove that stigma, that people would have an easier time coming forward and talking about it? I mean, do you feel that that would help if we started to embrace this terrible thing that happens to people more and bring it more out in the open?
I think so. If things were implemented in place to solve the issue, yeah, I think more people will come forward and try to receive the benefits.
I definitely think that removing that stigma is huge, where even in other aspects, people, when they aren't met up to society's standards, they automatically feel a bit of that defeat, and it really can lessen your want to talk about a situation. And if we remove that stigma and show more of what resources we have, I feel like a lot more people would come forward about their struggles, and that they really do need help.
I'm gonna try, oh, it came back, okay. I was like, all right, I agree with you. I think I went through a small period too where I didn't have anywhere to stay. So I moved around to people's couches and it was horrible. Like everything affected my life. Like you couldn't, not knowing where you're sleeping the next night is a pretty horrible feeling, and not having a refrigerator to go to prepare your own meal is difficult. And I mean, luckily for me, it was just a circumstantial thing. It wasn't, you know, just all these things happened at the same time, which is usually the case. And I think people coming back from that is difficult. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. It'll kind of all wrap in, but what kind of meals do you guys prepare for yourselves at home?
Being a college student, I don't really prepare meals. I just eat whatever's around, or I think that's accessible. So pizza, food is easily picked or is bad.
So yeah, food that's easily made or that's bad, it gets prepared.
I definitely, so being a student who lives at home, I have access to being able to do meal prep if wanted or needed. I don't pack as many lunches as I should, but I oftentimes am looking up recipes for crock pot recipes that can cook while I'm at school, and then when I get home, it's gonna last, a week or so, so I don't have to worry about where that next meal is coming from. But oftentimes, when I don't have something prepped, I'm like, where is going to be the cheapest option so I can save that money that I think that I'm going to have to spend? To be able to think about what else I can spend it on. I do eat out way more than I should eat. I just eat whatever's there. I don't go out. I try, when I have personally have enough money to feel comfortable, I try and meal prep to be able to like, invite a friend over kind of thing. So I try and look for ways that I can help somebody else who might need a meal.
Does this differ from what you would like to prepare? I mean, do you have an ideal, you know, if you had the time or the money or, you know, whatever the situation is, do you think that differs in your mind?
Definitely. I mean, if I had more than 24 hours in a day, I would be prepping meals before I study or while I study. And I would have healthy choices. Unfortunately, the healthier options seem to be a little bit more expensive sometimes. So if money was not a factor in it, I would definitely have healthier choices, more meals perhaps that can be frozen, that type of thing, to be able to take out later when I really do need it.
Yes. I will eat less fast food. Probably turn out more free food. Yeah, that's what I think.
I just want to talk about the food pantry. I know this is a real good time for me to do a slight plug, but we are trying to get some meals, some pre-made up meals for the holidays. So the food drive that's happening this week and next week, we're really trying to focus on items that we can put into a paper sack so those people who are using the food pantry can have a quick, easy-to-go meal already created for them. All they do is have to mix the ingredients together, follow some directions, and then have hopefully a wholesome meal that they can create. But with the food pantry, I think it is difficult to get the items that are fresh or healthy because a lot of the non-perishable foods are filled with salt or highly processed foods. So it's really difficult for us as a food pantry to have great choices for students, even though that's something that we're trying to do. I know we want to work with one of the exercise science classes as a service learning project that they would walk through our food pantry and create meals or recipes based on what we have stocked. And a lot of the things that we see going are the proteins, the canned proteins, so the canned chicken or canned fish as well that we see a lot. That's very popular as well.
Yeah, I think I have one now. Actually, that was a perfect segue, I suppose, into my next part of this question. If fresh fruit and vegetables were available at the food pantry, do you think students would choose to prepare them for themselves and their families? Do you think if that was available that the healthier choice would be something they would go to?
I notice students take the noodles, the tuna, the soups, those things faster than I think the apples and the bananas. I just think more calories. I think they just choosing for more calories, that's all.
I do think if there was enough of a resource that if the pantry was fully stocked and there was the healthier options to make a full meal, they probably would choose a little bit healthier items. But like you were saying, these students seem to be looking for the higher calorie items so that they know that they're not going to be tired the next day or as tired the next day, and are more susceptible to grabbing that unhealthy thing that's really filling rather than something healthy that, you know, would maybe fill them for an hour.
I think that's interesting because there probably has a lot to do too if they know where they're living too. I mean, obviously it's harder to grab some sort of vegetable that you have to prepare. It's a lot easier to grab something that's, you know, in a can that you can just eat out of the can if you need to, or I've seen the microwaves that have been put around campus too, which is great. Something you can pour water into is easy to prepare. So yeah, I do think that the fresh foods are hard for any pantry. So I agree. No? Okay, good. Well, welcome, Rachel. No, it's okay. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Okay.
My name is Rachel Van Hampton. I have been homeless for almost 2 years now. I actually been at Maltrotter Ministries for about 1.5 years. And so yeah, I know a lot about being homeless, and I know of several resources out there too for people to go to. So I'm excited to be here.
I'm going to backtrack a little bit because you just got here, but is there anything you'd like to tell us about hunger and homelessness?
Well, before I became homeless, I didn't realize how much of the homelessness is, especially around the downtown area. And it affects all different ages. In my mind, I used to think of the typical, homeless person, the older person or something like that, and it's not that at all. There's more younger people, I think, these days that are becoming more and more homeless. And, but there are, I know, at any given time during the day, there are places to go to get food, showers, laundry, and I've just recently became aware of even more places.
What types of resources are you using?
Well, right now, as long as I'm in the shelter at regular meal times, I eat there, which is not usually the case. So, like Maltrotter has a pantry, and I should have brought my list. I have a list of all the pantries and stuff around here. I have a case manager that works closely with me too and makes sure that I get food and everything.
Oh, that's. Thank you for sharing
blessing,
that.
yeah.
So,
Thank you.
I guess moving on. You guys can relate this to other students that you've heard too. How many? Maybe this is a question for you, Chris. How many meals each week does the food pantry provide? The on-campus food pantry provide for households?
Yeah, so speaking of the food pantry in general, so students get 2 visits per month out of the food pantry. Typically, we try and split it up in the first 2 weeks, and then they get another visit in the next 2 weeks, but they can come twice in the first 2 weeks if they really want to. But they have 2 visits per week. They have a reusable grocery bag that they can fill up with as much as they want. And we have about 34 people that have signed up this semester for the food pantry. Typically, we see about 1/4 to half use the pantry on a regular basis throughout the semester. So even though students are signing up, we're still trying to figure out why they don't use it as much as they could. So there is that disconnect. But typically, throughout the month, we get 20 visits or so from students.
An ABO, which is an all-male group, I know a single dad loves campus because of the resources they provide, like the food pantry. In ABO, if you meet the standards, you receive parking passes. So it's so many things that he doesn't have to worry about that the average student here on campus has to worry about. So yeah, I'm kind of glad the way Grand Rapids Community College is pushing towards these issues. Oh, I'm sorry. Right, okay. So yeah, a single dad in ABO, which is a male group, I can see that he has hope that he can finish school. Reason why is because of the resources here on campus. Things such as the food pantry and the incentives that ABO provides as well.
Do you think it is difficult for students to get food out of the food pantry? I guess what is the criteria that it takes to require, what do you guys require?
So for a student to be able to sign up for the food pantry, they have to take at least 1 credit hour, be enrolled 1 credit hour. Each semester they must re-sign up, and then they can enter it 2 times a month, and they can take 1 sack out each time. And there's one more that I'm missing that I can't think of off the top of my head. But it's pretty much open to any student who is currently enrolled at GRCC. Oh, and they can only have access when the office is open. So that's 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
And then during the last couple of years, how often as students have you been able to pay rent on time? I know that, Morgan, you live at home, but you can relate that to other students if you want.
I know multiple of my friends, they actually live downtown, so pricey as it is, but they do that to save money on gas, so they walk everywhere. But they oftentimes are struggling to meet their rent simply because they're trying to go to all of their classes and work at the same time. And the amount of classes that they take kind of limits when they can work. So if you work a retail job, a lot of the stores are closing at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and some students take night classes that aren't really an option. So once you get up into those higher level classes, they might only offer 1 or 2 sections of it, and those classes are only offered in the evening. So that limits their time, and so when they aren't able to go to work as much, they're not making enough money to pay for food, rent, and gas, any other expense that may happen to come up.
Something that I see happening a lot too is once you fall even 1 month behind in rent, it's kind of like a chain reaction. You just start getting behind on one thing after another, and it's almost impossible these days to catch up, even just by missing 1 month's rent. And even to get into another place, these days the application fees are that's what I'm dealing with right now, are so high and stuff. So it's a matter too of trying to catch up once you do get behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just 1 month's rent. It's, the deposit plus the month's rent plus the whatever,
Utilities, everything.
everything.
Yes.
And rent in Grand Rapids has been skyrocketing, which, it used to be an area you could live in that wasn't as expensive, but without having rent control or anything, getting out of that slump has to be difficult.
Yeah.
Have you said you're at Mel Trotter, correct?
Yes.
And have you been there for the whole time, or have you moved around?
I've been there for 1.5 years, doing different programs and stuff in there.
Where were you before that?
I stayed with me and my kids stayed with my dad for a long time, and then he passed away, and the landlord that week was there knocking on the door because he knew we couldn't afford it, and it kind of went from there.
That was the perfect segue for my next question for you. How many children do you have?
I have 2. I have a 19-year-old who just made me a grandmother 4 months ago, and I have a 5-year-old.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
The 5-year-old, who cares? While you're at school, what does the 5-year-old do?
Since I became homeless, I lost custody of him. So, but as soon as I can get me a place, I can get him back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that makes it harder for you academically?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not, you need one more burden to worry about.
Well, no, it's just it's kind of like being down and then somebody just kind of kicks you even farther.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Let's see. I know we talked about this a little bit, but what effect has hunger and homelessness had on your personal life? But what do you think the effect of hunger and homelessness has on academic, like for students and for yourself?
I want to touch on one more thing with the academics. I cannot tell you how many people I even hear walking past me in the hallway saying, I don't have enough money for food, and then they're scrounging to try and find something and they end up late to class. Oftentimes see students walk into class late with food that they happen to come by from an event. So, and I've also had wonderful professors who, when they know an event's going on, they're like, hey, we should go check that out for a while, because they know that there's going to be food there just in case there are students in there with a lack of a food resource, so that they're not individually calling them out. So it does take time away from the classroom sometimes, but it's something that the give and take is well worth it.
Like I mentioned before, if I'm actually at the shelter, I can have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the exact time. So if I'm here, I'm not getting a meal.
Hunger affects academics in numerous ways. So I'm sorry. It affects students. Students become sick. They perform poor in the classroom. Behavioral problems. Harder for them to concentrate. Feeling tired. And some students even are absent in the classroom.
So when I asked some of the food pantry participants to see if they'd want to sit on here, and one of the participants said that she couldn't join us, but she gave me a little story. And so she had talked about how it has really helped her be able to focus, to have the food available, to focus in class. Before she had access to the pantry, she said she would be hungry and it would be hard to focus in class or hard to go to work hungry. So she talked about how the food pantry really helped out with that. And she was at a gas station and was talking to the cashier, and the cashier happened to be someone from GRCC, a student, and only had $20 to her name. And so she talked to the cashier and said, you know, you should really look into the food pantry. This is a great resource for you. If you're hungry and you don't have money for food, you should really look into it. So I thought that was really cool that a student was helping another student get the resource that they may need so that they can be successful both academically and personally as well.
I think student support is kind of where we were talking about that stigma of homelessness earlier, hunger. I think student support is going to be a big thing that helps break that. I think, people look up to their peers in different ways, and I think that having the support of your fellow classmates and having the support of your fellow, even, academically, it's very important. I'm going to ask questions at the very end, unless is that okay? Okay, awesome. I'll leave a good chunk for questions, just to let everybody know. So prepare your questions. How many hours a week do you all typically work?
I work typically about 28 hours a week.
In my previous job, I used to work 30 to 35 hours a week. Now that I work at the school, I only work 15 to 20 hours a week.
I'm just recovering from surgery, so I am looking for a job right now.
How many hours a week were you typically working before that?
I would try to work 40 if it was possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was at a job where I could pick my hours.
Oh,
It
that's
was very
always
nice.
good.
It was very nice, yeah.
So on top of that, how many credits are you guys taking at GRCC?
12, I think.
When I was working 30 to 35 hours, I was at a full-time schedule. Now I'm at a part-time schedule solely to focus more on my student organization.
This semester I have 13 credit hours.
So basically, a lot of credit hours, trying to combine with work, trying to combine with home life, trying to combine with social life, if you even have one as a student. Anything on top of, it's a lot. Like, it basically is, I guess, what I'm trying to get at. It's easy to get into a rut. And when you're established, it's harder to remember those times that it was difficult, I think, because you try and block horrible memories out. But trying to establish yourself is difficult.
And that's one thing, there's a lot of help out there for people who are finally like at the bottom where they are homeless, but there's not a lot of help for people who have just started to be in that rut, unfortunately, because I know from experience it would be much easier to get that type of help to where you don't have to fall all the way down into homelessness or anything.
Yeah, that middle of the realm. I think in having to choose, as a student between paying your rent or your meal. And we were talking about, what effect does it have on your academic career? I mean, I know that if I even skip breakfast, and I go to class, I'm just like, there's no, you can't concentrate. A Kids Food Basket in Grand Rapids does a lot of research about that and, how kids are able to concentrate more. And I think that goes for adults too. I don't think that ever stops. I think that, the concentration level, if you're hungry, that's all you're thinking about.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that we had a food pantry here, so I'm kind of excited to hear that. And I know me and a lot of people too, we kind of have a system where we know if we eat breakfast, it's gonna make us hungry for lunch, but if we skip, breakfast, we can go a lot longer, unfortunately, without eating. So we do that too sometimes.
Yeah, that's another choice, and that's a horrible choice that anybody has to make. I mean, choosing which meal you have to skip to, decide, well, I don't want to make myself hungry. I think that's really difficult. So how many hours per week, on top of all the work, on top of social, on top of family, how many hours a week are you able to devote to your studies at GRCC?
I would say I spend maybe 2 hours a night. I stay up rather later than I should, to make sure that I do keep my studies up.
Typically, because of work and the amount of classes I'm taking, I typically study about 6 hours a day, just including homework. But during exam week, it's much more. I think I study about 9 hours a day.
Before I just recently got my computer, I had to do, we have a curfew too where I stay, so I had to wait for their computer lab hours and stuff, so I was only limited to about 45 minutes a day. But now that I have my laptop, I at least make sure I spend an hour and a half and make sure I get anything that's due. But then on Sundays after church is usually just my whole kind of study for me type day.
Yeah. Yeah, that must make it a little difficult, especially when you're not able to really create your own schedule, really. I mean, trying to go through something that's setting your meal times for you or setting your, you can only access a lab for, like you said, 45 minutes. Have any of you been awarded with any type of financial aid, scholarships, grants, loans, anything?
Yeah, I have got some financial aid and the Pell Grant.
I have gotten financial aid in the form of Pell Grant and scholarships.
I just received a Pell Grant, and that pretty much covers my schooling.
Do you think that that's helping? I mean, do you think, being able to receive grants or student loans or anything like that is assisting?
Yes, I have this philosophy. If I have to take a loan out, I probably want to attend school. So yeah, that's a big helper.
I'd definitely say it helps. There have been, I think, 2 semesters since I've started college that my financial aid was actually more than my tuition, so it then paid for my books type thing. So it's very helpful to be able to not have to worry about the cost of books or art supplies for class type thing.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the Pell Grant, I wouldn't even be able to attend school because I just wouldn't not be able to come up with that money for the books, any supplies, and with the actual financial aid loan that I got this semester, I was just told that I could possibly use that towards housing, so I might be able to use that for some application fees and stuff.
That's awesome. I don't know where I was going somewhere. Sorry, I had a little. What do you guys believe GRCC could do in order to address the food and housing needs of students? Or address them more? I mean, do you feel that there's something more that GRCC could do?
I was actually really shocked and thought it was really cool that you guys are even doing this right now. So I think things like this and the food pantry, and I've seen people do some like not fundraisers, but like donation type things for students, especially because the holidays are coming up. And I know from last year that is the hardest time of year. You just really kind of get down on yourself and stuff.
I definitely think that something GRCC could do is just spread more awareness about the issue, because as you're spreading the awareness about the issue, obviously those resources are going to go hand in hand with that, and the information about those resources on campus is going to reach more of the students who it's actually affecting.
Yeah, like she said, more student engagement, the more events they know about, the more food they have access to. If GRCC could give some of these student organizations like an allowance or something to feed their members, because what I learned that was all organizations don't feed their members. So that would be my take on it.
As an administrator, I've worked here since 2014. So what I've seen through the CAP and kind of working here is there is a lot of staff that's very interested in this topic and really wants to help out. They're very motivated to help out, especially around food. I think housing is where we get a little stuck at, and I think it's not a lack of wanting to help, it's a lack of not knowing the resources. One story, over the summer, I had a student come in, wanted to take GRCC classes, and didn't have a place to stay. And so I didn't know how to help that student. I felt kind of stuck and helpless in that moment, because they were trying to figure out how to pay for it, but they didn't have an address to put down. They had an address of a friend of the family that they could count on, but it wasn't a place of residence that they would consider a place of residence. So I think for housing is something that we could do a lot on, with creating resources for students and helping them navigate where to go and how to sign up for housing, where housing is located around campus here as well.
I think things that Stacy, my partner, and I had discovered through our research, and I was telling you about this just before. There is a school, I think they're located in California. They do a opt-in situation where if you're an employee at the college, you can opt in a portion of your check that goes into a fund. And that fund is then used to give small grants or just small amounts of a stipend to students that are homeless. They can use that towards food or housing, whatever it is. The opt-in, like I said, it's just an opt-in. It can be $1 out of a check. It can be 50 cents. It doesn't really matter. It can be $100. I mean, obviously there's different levels of employees. So just an interesting thought. The housing insecurity is hard to address because how do you apply for a college if you don't have a resident? How do you, where do you tell people to go? I mean, you might be able to help me answer that a little bit.
Yeah, it is very hard when you don't have an address. I got denied donating plasma because I didn't have a address. And I was gonna say something, I forgot, hold on. Another thing too that makes it harder to obtain housing is when, let's say apartment place or whatever, they see that you're a student, they don't look at it as they're bettering their lives, they look at it, that's time that they could be working to pay for rent. So there's kind of a stigma with that too.
Yeah, it is kind of, I mean, I believe that most people do try to attend school to better their lives or better their current situation. And there is this weird stigma around students. It's like, well, you're not necessarily going to have the time to maybe pay for this apartment, so I'm not sure if I can.
Or young student, and they think of parties and stuff like that, and yeah, that's one more thing I've been noticing.
Yeah, I'm sure. So how has the campus food pantry or other resources, since you just found out about the food pantry, helped with your success in and out of college?
I don't know how to answer that one because for me to go to a food pantry is kind of hard too because where I stay, we're not allowed to bring food into the building. So I can just go and get, food as needed to eat right there type thing.
By not having to worry about food or parking is too big. Make sure I'm talking to my... Not having to worry about food or parking helps me with school. That's one less thing I have to worry about. And my grades displays that.
Do you have any stories? I just have a couple more questions, and then we can open up for questions out of the audience, or if you guys have anything else you want to include, you could do that after just these last few. Do you guys believe it's important for GRCC faculty and leaders and people associated with the administration to know about these kind of difficulties that many students face as they struggle towards completion of their academics?
I definitely think it's very important for them to be aware of the situation. Maybe the student in their class that is getting C's or even low B's on their tests could do immensely better if they just weren't hungry as they're coming into the test. I know a couple times I have skipped breakfast before I go into a test and instantly regret it because I'm sitting there with my stomach grumbling, worrying that I'm distracting another student because my stomach is grumbling so loud and I only skipped one meal. So if faculty and staff are more aware of what's going on, they might be able to address the issue more with students that they think it might be affecting and be able to get them to the resources that they need to help them academically.
I think it's important too for them to be aware because some students might not want to talk to their peers about being homeless or without food, and if staff might notice the signs of a student being hungry or something and they were to approach them, it might go a little better than you know, having to tell your friends or whatever. And, you know, I know like there's set rules in every class, so, you know, I don't see staff ever being able to like change rules because a student's hungry or anything, but it might just make them too a little bit more aware or compassionate about what that student is going through and the reasoning why, you know, they might be falling asleep in class or something.
I agree. Sometimes it's easier if somebody approaches you about the subject too. Yeah, instead of having to find that, you know, will to do it on your own.
Yeah, and it's nice too, being in this situation, just to know that other people do care. And, you know, you don't want people to notice that, but when they do, you know, it's just nice to know that somebody does care that you're going through this.
Yeah, I do. I also, I mean, as a staff member, I think it's very important. If anyone knows Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they know that housing and food and shelter and safety is on that bottom building block. And so if those aren't taken care of, nothing above can be concentrated on. So I think since this is, as Maslow would have it, is the basis of everything above it, such as being able to concentrate, or I'm blanking on what the other levels are, but it's definitely about being able to concentrate on other things outside of your safety or resources for you. So if we want students to be able to succeed and be able to get a great education, they need those base necessities taken care of as well. And maybe that's through assistance through us.
So just right off the bat, is there anything you would like the faculty or staff to know?
Just coming from a spot where I do live at home, just because someone does live at home doesn't mean that they're not going to come to class hungry. You may have a house where your parents are helping support you, but it doesn't mean they're supportive of you. So they may not pay for your food, or a friend of mine, her parents will not let her eat any food that they buy. She has to provide her own food in her own home. So just because one of the issues may not be a problem, it doesn't mean that another one isn't.
Yeah, I think another thing too is they should know and anybody should know, just don't judge anybody in this situation, because, I mean, you'd be surprised at, you know, you might think this person might just be lazy or something like that, and you know, they really don't know what is going on in somebody's life. And, you know I wouldn't want anybody to have to experience what I'm going through either.
I feel like all the faculty probably has been through the whole college student thing. I just ask that, how would you feel now if you were in some of these student shoes? That's all. How would you feel now if you were in some of these student shoes? Because I feel like all the staff in here knows about these issues. They have been in college. But at this point in life, how would you feel if you were starving or homeless?
And I guess my final question for you guys would be, kind of relates to the last one, but do you have any recommendations that you would give to the college or staff?
Oh, I'm sorry, can you?
Do you have any recommendations, like something that you think the college should be doing to help, or, you know, is there anything off the bat that you could think of?
Just to maybe be aware of the resources that there are out there. Kind of, you know, like I said, I know of a lot, and maybe if they could start asking around or something like that, because even though some of the resources are hard to get, or you might not qualify for this one or that one, but there are resources out there.
Well, I think that kind of wraps up my questions. I do want to say, Rachel, thank you for coming. I think that was incredibly brave of you to be here and to tell people actually what you're going through and to open up to everybody.
Thank
So,
you. It's
yeah.
not easy, but I want to help. I really bad want to help others. So
Well,
if I can, I will be glad to do it.
I think that's, yeah, very commendable. So,
Thank you.
and everybody that was here, you guys, thank you for taking the time out of your day to even sit on this panel and, help contribute. And I think it gives students a voice that maybe don't necessarily have the courage to have a voice yet, and hopefully it encourages people to come forward if they need help. So yeah, if you have a question for anybody or anything, come on up. Say it into the microphone. Don't be shy. Or she's gonna walk around, even better. You don't even have to get up.
If you wanted to donate to the food pantry, what items do you recommend? Because I know typically when you go to donate, it's usually the things in your pantry that you just haven't used in a long time. I don't want to necessarily do that, but I guess knowing now that you're trying to put meals together for people to make, what are you looking for us to provide?
Definitely, side dishes are very helpful. We have a lot of pasta and marinara sauce, spaghetti sauce, that kind of thing. I wanted to walk through Meyer and kind of look through. Unfortunately, a lot of the meals that I make at home, there's a protein, a chicken, beef, kind of thing, a fish, stuff that needs to be refrigerated or have a freezer for it. So a lot of things that I see students take also, like I mentioned before, are the canned tuna, the canned chicken, that kind of thing. But I think hamburger helper, things to help make a meal a little bit more, tuna helper, chicken helper, that kind of thing, can really help out. Or things that can go with pasta also, because we do have a lot of pasta in there. But I don't know if there's anyone from CAP that has some good ideas as well. But anything that's really easy or helpful to prepare for meals. You'd think peanut butter would go pretty fast, but it's okay. It doesn't go as fast as you think it would. So, but yeah, I'm mostly thinking like dinner prep meals. Yeah.
So not only do we have the actual food pantry on campus, there's also the little snack pantries around campus. I'll walk by it at 9 o'clock in the morning when I'm headed to class, and I'll leave that class a few hours later and it's empty when it was fully stocked that morning. So even like granola bars, that type stuff, that's easy for them to grab and eat on their way to class, or I feel are really, really helpful.
With the holidays coming up, is there a resource for students, coats or gloves or scarves? I mean, maybe not in the pantry, but is that something that's available through Student Life?
Yeah. I know we have a pail, or not pail, but a bin in the food pantry that has some coats that people have donated. I don't think we'll ever turn away anything, especially if it's not something that will go bad very quickly. But I know we do have toiletries in there that people donate, shampoo. We've got a few diapers, women's hygiene projects, that kind of thing. So if someone does need a shirt or wants to donate a coat or shoes or something like that, we just don't have the space technically for it. So that's the difficult thing. I know there's a sock drive going on right now on campus. I forget who's leading it, if anyone wants to help me with that.
It's a professional women's group.
Oh, okay. So we have that going on, and I'm sure there'll be other ones that happen. I'm not, off the top of my head, I can't remember anymore, but that are happening.
I was thinking, just with the cold coming up, it's always, also a problem, just something I thought of after you asked that question of what does the pantry need, so.
Thank you. I have a lot of questions. I hope you don't mind. First, I'd like to know, what are your goals, each of you, in terms of academics and your plans for the future, your studies? Go ahead.
One of the biggest goals for me right now is to change the culture of my family. And one of the ways I'm going about that is to complete school at a graduate level.
So currently, I have one associate's degree, and I'm working towards my second one. Another big goal for me right now in my student org, I'm currently the Michigan Regional President of the organization, but I'm running for international president position for next year. So that is the biggest goal I have in my head right now.
A big goal of mine is, since I'm the only one in my family to even graduate high school, is to definitely graduate from college. I want to major in addiction studies. I am a recovering addict. I've got 2 years clean now, and I want to help others, give back to the community, and maybe some type of social work, recovery coach type thing. And my short-term goal is to obtain housing.
Certainly. Well, certainly, I mean, I applaud all of you. You're all to be commended for pursuing these goals, and I can only give you a great deal of encouragement, because it is a long road, a longer road than many, but you know, you can overcome the obstacles in your path. That's for sure. Couple of things that just struck me as ideas that might be somewhat helpful. Would it be helpful if the pantry was made available to students in evening hours or certain evening hours during the week? Is that something that would accommodate some students in terms of their food needs?
I think so, because you know, all hours of the day we need food, especially later, you know, dinner or something like that.
I definitely think having it open later than 5, if a student is trying to work and go to class, their work schedule may be really early in the morning, and then their classes may go later into the day, and they might not be able to make it during that time. So having it open later just gives them more of an opportunity to be able to stop in.
I believe so, because things close on campus, and also students are studying late.
So perhaps not every night, but maybe 1 or 2 nights during the week, if that's possible. Another thought, there's not a freezer in the pantry. Would it be feasible for there to be a freezer to hold certain items that can be frozen and then prepared at home? Is that, or would students not bother cooking those things because of the desire really to cook convenient items?
From my experience here on campus, I see like the little pantries that's scattered all around campus. What you call this? Yeah, the snack pantries. Grab and go is the biggest thing. Stuff that can be heated up, snacks, things of that nature.
I do think that might be a good idea for students maybe that have children and stuff that they do need to make a meal for later on that day.
I think those frozen meals that, you know, heat up in a couple minutes would be helpful, because you can get silverware on campus if you really need it. So if there was the option to have a freezer with some of those prepared frozen meals that you can find in any freezer section, I think could be helpful to kind of maybe reduce on that sodium level of the canned food.
Also, there was mention made of a lot of students using the health club or the field house for personal hygiene. Would it be helpful if those hours were extended throughout the entire week? Are we talking about a lot of students? What do you think?
I know a lot of athletics obviously use them, because I don't want to stand next to them after they finished a game. But They use that quite often, so there are plenty of students who use them. There are students who take wellness classes who use them as well. And I see plenty of other students who go in there because all of the facilities in the field house are available to them. The field house is open a little bit later than I believe the food pantry is, and it's open pretty early as well. So I think those hours, I think, are sustainable enough that they're open before classes start and enough time that students could maintain their personal hygiene.
I think that's a tough question because I think that's probably staffing issues to stay that late. But I know the students will either take a shower super early or later when there's less students on campus.
Gotcha. And lastly, some of our research uncovered that Tacoma Community College has a housing assistance program with the city of Tacoma. There is city subsidized housing, and the community college has designated some rentals for college students at the community college. Homeless students receive first priority. I'm not saying that everything is cost-free, but their rates are very low. Is that something you believe that GRCC might ought to think about exploring?
I think so. I think Baker's College, I think that's a community college. They have housings for their students.
Yeah, I think that would be an amazing idea. Very helpful.
I think that would be a very good option. I know Grand Valley does allow for GRCC students to apply for housing out there. There is a bus that will go all the way from Grand Valley to downtown. So it is a bit of a ride, but that is available. But I think, like you were saying, there are community colleges that have housing on campus. I think it'd be really hard to establish something like that for Grand Rapids, but working with the city to provide that type of a resource would be very helpful.
Yeah, especially because all the subsidized housing that is around here, there's 2 to 5 year waiting list for them. So for students to get like a priority in that would be really, really good.
Great. Well, again, thank you to all of our panelists for being here and everybody that came to listen. I think it's, like I said before, and I know I keep repeating it, but I think it's important to let everybody know actually that there are things like this going on within the GRCC campus and within Grand Rapids and actually all over the US, and helping lift that idea that, you know, students are partiers or, you know, they're not going to be able to pay their rent on time or whatever it is also a thing that would help throughout our whole community. So again, thanks to everybody. And it was, Rachel, I do want to commend you again. That was really great that you could be here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.